Hello and welcome back to the Digital Marketing Podcast. My name is Kieran Rogers.
I'm Louise Crossley.
And I'm Daniel Rolls.
And today we are talking about SEO in 2024.
That was a very interesting intro because normally Kieran gets over enthusiastic and I told him to calm down and he went quite deep.
He's been ripping into me. Honestly, the grief I get. I'm only trying to, lift the mood.
So this one comes from. There have been loads of debates online. There was a core Google algorithm update in March 2024. And lots of people say, what does it do? It does this, it does that. And there's always wild speculation. Then there was lots of discussion about EAT, which is the whole experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trust. Was it really part of the algorithm? Is it actually, a ranking factor? Then lots of people debating online, core web vitals, is that really a ranking factor? Then Google came out and said links don't matter as much anymore. And everyone was like, links don't matter at all. Links aren't a thing anymore. It doesn't matter. So I wanted to try and take these different topics and give our perspective on it. I mean, to be honest with you, we know as much as anyone else in the fact that Google won't tell you the algorithm. No one knows for absolute sure. Some people are absolutely determined to stick to their opinions on these things. And I think it doesn't matter. And what I mean by that is that what all of these things are trying to do is give a good user experience. So actually, if you focus on that, it's great. But I think there's some really interesting points. So this latest algorithm update, really, when you look at it, it's about removing rubbish content. Low value content, they call it. But what it's a reaction to when you read between the lines a little bit more is that I've read 1,000 little tweets of going, this is how we spun up a website in 2 days and we generated 400 articles using ChatGPT on this article and look at our rankings. And they show a chart with the rankings going through the roof and you think, that shouldn't work, but it does. It did work and it's not good. And I think Google have realized some people have been high volume content sneaking into the algorithm a little bit and getting away with it, because it's very hard to detect AI-generated content, even with AI.
Caught napping Google.
Yeah, well, I think
that's
possibly
a little bit.
And so what's interesting is this update, they reckon it's going to remove 40% of the low-value content from Google. So loads of people are getting upset. My website's not ranking anymore. I can't understand why. And it's like, because your content was produced by a chatbot.
Is that why it's called a core update? Because it's proper impressive.
Well,
this is on the Isle of Wight. You use the word core, and that's like something very exciting. And
I didn't
not
follow
that,
what you were saying then at all.
It's not like that, is it?
And I'm going to move on.
Core, blimey.
Move on.
Right.
So the
Try not to entertain it.
Yeah. This is if I ignore him, he'll go away. That's the theory, right? Is that a lot of this is to do with the knowledge graph. So, and then I'll kind of come back to this point, which is all the knowledge graph is connecting entities, right? So it will know that Daniel's a person, Louise is a person, Kieran's a person. It will know that those three entities are connected to the entity that is a digital marketing podcast, which is a podcast. It will know that is connected to a company that is Target Internet. It would also know that Daniel and Kieran are connected or have been to the Chartered Institute of Marketing. And so it sees those connections between things. Now, that becomes important from this expertise experience thing when it kind of knows who the author is. But also, it's not just about knowing the author, it's knowing what that author is connected to. So everyone says, well, all you've got to do is you just stick a really high-profile author onto your website and immediately your stuff's going to rank better. It's nonsense. It doesn't work like that. But actually, that knowledge graph piece of understand the connections and therefore be able to go, okay, if you give me an article and it's been written by an AI, it will have probably no actual examples and case studies that can be connected back to a real thing in many cases. So it suddenly lacks some of that authoritativeness, and therefore it's not going to build the trust. So actually, you can still use AI to generate your content, but then what you do is rather than saying this is how you should do it, you say, here's an example of it being done. Here's what we've learned. Here's a video. Here's a podcast. Here's some graphics. And you bring it to life with your experience, with your expertise.
Something that can't be generated by
AI.
That's it. It's like that differentiation.
Yeah, and it's that lean into your humanity piece. It's like, what is it that we know that's better than actually just doing it with ChatGPT? Because if it's not, why are we doing it? There's no value in that. So realistically, that's where I think the EAT piece comes in, is really demonstrating the knowledge graph connections. And then you start to produce content that is of higher value, and therefore you're not going to suffer at the hands of these algorithm changes as well.
It's also maybe bringing in additional writers, and do we think that the return of the guest blog
Well, I think
be
there's a
advantageous. I think potentially, yeah.
Well, why don't you say there's something's happened? Why wouldn't you get 5 people's opinions on it and share those 5 people's opinions? Now, that was always a bit of a scam because you'd go 20 opinions on SEO in 2024, and then you'd get those people to comment, and then all of those people would share it on their social media, and then you'd get links. So it was quite a nice way. It's still a nice way of doing it, as long as it provides value. So I saw a really nice thing that was waterproof jackets, and it was reviews of waterproof jackets, and then it was 5 people's opinion of that jacket. And those 5 people, one was a kayaker, one was a walker, one was someone that had dogs, and so they had very different use cases for that product, and gave you their perspective review on it. And I was like, I love that because it's got a lot of authority and trust in it, because I can see what these people do, but it's also I can align with what thing relevant to me. So so I think there's something nice in that. So think about how you might structure articles, and I think that from an editorial point of view, thinking a little bit more originally in your formats, thinking about how you might have a key point, summaries, call outs, the stuff that you would get in these different kind of magazine formats, that's a really nice way of doing it. So pick up a print magazine, get an online magazine or newspaper, and to see how are they structuring content that's slightly different, because that gives you the opportunity to demonstrate all this EAT stuff. Whether or not it's a ranking factor is kind of irrelevant, because we know that Google's looking at it in some way, and we know actually it provides value. And that's why it's a good thing as well.
And Google's come out basically said good content is good content.
Yeah, that's it.
And you know that if you're showing expertise or authoritativeness, you know that's going to be good content.
Yeah, that's it.
So the ranking factor isn't necessarily a huge thing.
Yeah, like how much the percentage is it? Don't obsess on it too much. Then the other thing that came out is link building still relevant. Links don't matter anymore. And it's like, of course they matter, because not necessarily that Google's going and looking exactly how many links and where they've come from. I mean, I think they still are to some extent. But more the fact that a link is a vote of confidence. Because people are only going to link to you if you have something interesting, educational, entertaining, valid to say. So if you can create something that loads of people want to link to, well, you've kind of done something right, generally speaking, or something very, very wrong. I mean, bad publicity will get you loads of links as well. So I think that's important. I think the big change really is this user behavior piece. This has become a bigger and bigger thing. And it's like, they've got Google Chrome. They know what you're doing in your websites. You only have to go and see your history in the Google, go to Google My Activity, and it will show you all the things that Google knows about you. They know what websites you've been to, what pages you've been to. They know from analytics in an anonymized way how long you're on those pages, if you're scrolling, all that kind of stuff. And they can use that in order to go, are people engaging with this content? Is it good quality content? They can aggregate that, and they can quite quickly work out. If you go to Google, you search something, you click on it, you go back, you click on the third result, not the first result. These are all little signals that Google's building up to understand, actually, is this content any good or not? Should we rank it from that point of view? Coming back also, just one other point, is that whole knowledge graph piece of the entities means that actually unlinked mentions of your brand mentions, are really helpful still as well. Because it can see, I know that Target Internet, I know that the Digital Marketing Podcast is a thing, and it's being mentioned in these other places, even if that's not linking anywhere. So that's why the big brands tend to do pretty well, because they're mentioned in so many other places. That has an impact, as well as a myriad of other factors as well. So focus on that user experience, as we always say. The other piece is this core web vitals piece. If you think about what it's doing. So you've got all these lovely 3-letter acronyms. So we've got, the longest contentful paint. Like, contentful isn't a word. First of all, this is really frustrating me, but it's just the whole page loading down to the bottom, right? Cumulative layout shift is not the page moving about. We've gone from first input delay to moving to
interactive
new
next page.
Yeah, INP they've moved to. Well done, because I couldn't remember it. I was just we've moved to this new one. So you said it exactly. So well done. So does it matter? Well, what all of them are doing is trying to say, is it a good user experience? Does it load quickly? Can I click quickly? Is it not moving around the page? So everything Google is doing is trying to move towards that. So it's not just about the content, it's the structure, it's the layout, but it's the experience, the interactive experience you're getting of that content as well that can have a big impact.
I mean, I don't think Google actually ever said it'll help your rankings directly. I don't know I've ever seen anything from Google, but the inference and the excitement and the buzz and the hype was, oh, do this and it will.
Directly have an impact.
For quite a few websites now, I've, over the last couple of years, spent an inordinate amount of time trying to get all the scores perfect.
On mobile, particularly.
Yeah,
right?
what you find is very often you will improve in one area and it will drop in the other because it's changed how the site's working.
I know it's not a direct thing. It's not a direct ranking factor.
Well, that's what I'm
going
to say. Like, I still maintain it's really good thing because it's going to improve the overall user experience, particularly on mobile. But I've not seen any significant SEO ranking rise as a result of doing this. Maybe that's because everybody's been doing a lot of it, or I suspect they haven't. If you can benchmark any tool with the dev.tools,
Yeah, just go page
tool,
speed insights.
page
We'll give
speed
it to us.
insights will do that. So you can bench, like it's well worth benching to see how well your competitors are on this. I would say if they're really on it, you probably need to pull your socks up as well. But I wouldn't say it's the be all and end all. There's definitely like better content is definitely better, more regular content. You know, that's where so many organizations fall down. They're just not putting it out there.
I'll tell you what, something I've noticed as well. I've been looking a lot at our search traffic, and we've started to put out content more regularly again because we've done a couple of bigger pieces. We're always doing the podcast, but there's not much written content that goes with that. And then we started doing the news updates and things like that. And that regularity, which I would have said years ago was a big deal. Now I thought it doesn't matter anymore. It really does seem to matter. And then I read something, and this brings me to the next point, which is that there's a Google SEO guide that was created in I think 1997 or something bonkers like that. They just started it, and then it was updated in 2002 and 2004. They've just republished the whole thing, and it tells you really clearly what you should be doing at a really granular level as well. It's not telling you everything, but it's like, if you want good SEO, you need to do these things to help us help you. One of the things they talk about in there is that what we want to see is people that are publishing great quality content regularly. So that regularly word, it's like, oh, right, Google are actually saying it's a thing, and I can see it in our search rankings. It's a huge thing as well. So what we've just done is we've updated our skills benchmark of all this latest stuff about SEO. So if you haven't done the skills benchmark, you go in, go to targetinternet.com/skills. You can benchmark yourself for free, benchmark your team for free. But then what you're able to do is kind of see where you compare to everyone else. So good for benchmarking yourself, but with your team, you can see do we need to improve things? And there's really good breakdown within your team and so on as well. And then obviously if you go onto Target Internet, we've got loads and loads and loads of content on there around that kind of topic. But we need to be focusing on these things now to get the most out of our content. And I think revisiting what you've got, and I always do this exercise in my workshops, is saying, go and look at the top 5 bits of content, like a 10x content piece. See what other people are doing. What can you learn? How could you apply that to what you're doing? And it's like, oh, there's a summary. Oh, there's a key indicators table in it. Oh, there's some nice images. Just basic stuff like that. But take your content and just do that. That'll move you forward loads.
Make use of Search Console and Bing Webmaster Tools. Yeah. There's a ton of free stuff in there that are really, really good. Well, Search Console flagged up for me that Google weren't indexing lots of pages on one of the sites I was looking at because there were redirects there. Right. So who knew, right? Actually quite a lot of work we've discovered to remove all those redirects because you have to go to all the individual references. So here you've got a situation where somebody's changed an internal reference. Oh, let's just slap in a redirect and then all the links internally will work. But those links might be in your nav. Well, linking to different pages and links in your nav, they're really important, but not if they're redirects. It kind of undermines that whole strategy. So, check for that. I'm a massive fan of Screaming Frog. Fantastic little tool. You can audit up to 500 pages for free. So check it out. But download Screaming Frog, and that will tell you where all your redirects are. And it makes it really simple to find them all and correct them.
Well, you just pay for it once, audit your whole website. You don't need to keep subscribing forever. I mean, it's a great tool. We did it, broken links, and I think it's noticeable. So Lou went through, so I went through and went, here's our broken links. Can you go off and fix those? Here's all the broken images. And it's like, there's 10,000, thanks for that. But we fixed them. Search rankings went up. I'm sure there was a connection between
simple, basic SEO 101, like get your internal content good and solid. Get those things fixed because over time, just each month, a few extra things creep in. And I've always, e-commerce stores, big content websites, I've always found that hugely beneficial. Hugely beneficial. And the other big one is revisit your meta titles and descriptions.
And your page titles.
Page meta titles and descriptions. So many sites neglect those. I think it's not enough to just say, we've got them. No, they've got to be good. They've got to be good. But we've got AI now. And the AI is fantastic for giving you 4 or 5 variations on that. And then you can cherry pick the most engaging one and go with that. And just doing a simple exercise of rewriting your meta descriptions, I've seen sites traffic go up 20, 20+%.
Wow.
It's huge for not that much work, really.
Little hack as well. Get Screaming Frog, get it to get all of your page titles out, put the whole lot into an AI, give it a tone of voice and all that stuff, and get it to rewrite them. You can do it en masse now really easily. Manually check them, but there's a real opportunity of that. The other opportunity as well is that with GA4, now that we can see dwell time much more clearly, we can go through and understand a lot more what's going on, how much they're scrolling in the pages and so on. You can get really good indicators, therefore, of how that content is working much, much better than we could before. Which, just to say, no, we've got another one of our GA4 masterclasses coming up on the 29th of April. So if you want to join that little half-day program, you can do that, targetinternet.com/masterclass. You can get those. So hopefully some practical tips there. What I would say is we are so obsessed with social media that a lot of the time these core SEO things, we don't really work on them enough. And we go, well, the SEO agency's dealing whatever. Take a step back, look at your content and just go, we're going to go through our content and one piece of content a week we're going to improve. If you did that, you're going to see benefit.
I feel like people get in the habit as well of just pushing content out and then it's
New
like,
stuff,
okay, it's out, forget about it now. Yeah.
We're guilty of that.
Whereas actually, when you keep going back and looking at stuff, your content could really be serving you if you just make little amendments.
Yeah.
I'd also say there's an argument that social media teams get a lot more internal PR than your SEO team does.
Right. Because SEO is seen as a geeky, techie thing.
Yeah, it's but social media, that post was so funny, that was so great, look what we got. But honestly, look at the end results. Your SEO, for most organizations, very few organizations would have their social media results wipe the floor with the SEO results in terms of actual business that you can track back. Right. But we tend to ignore it because it's for free and we'll get it anyway, don't we?
Yeah.
No, not in the current landscape. That is not a given. Everything's changing. And actually, the companies who are on this are getting better and better at it, right? So, yeah, you might have been top of the pile this time last year, but are you still?
Right.
Do you even know? I found it hugely useful to be running an SEO report every single month. Like, it's a challenge, right? But I've changed the way that I'm running those SEO reports. So the SEO report is looking back over the last 6 months, and I've stopped doing year-on-year comparisons because so much is changing within a landscape. They're almost irrelevant. You want to know.
So what tool are you using?
So, I mean, actually, the tool I use is Swido,
nice.
which is, I'm sure I've mentioned it before. See what you do online. It's a great dashboarding tool, and it integrates with Google Search Console. And I'm primarily using Google Search Console references, and also a little bit from GA4 just to look at the conversions. But super good to be able to do that. Like, honestly, monitoring. I think Peter Drucker said, if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. And this is the thing. And I think, like, keep it simple. It doesn't need. You just need to be looking at core metrics, like click-through rates, impressions. Like, what's your impression share? Core pages. And stop doing the year-on-year comparisons. Like, look at the general trend. Is the general trend up or down? And what's really interesting, because I'm reporting on this, it's not just me looking at that report, I'm reporting to the team on it. I'm having to go in and go, whoa, it dropped 40% last month. What's going on? Right? And getting in amongst the weeds and looking at it. It would have been so easy for that to not happen. And then you let that go wild for 6 months and suddenly you're in a really difficult place. Yeah. So reporting on it regularly, massive, massive step forward, and you should all be doing that.
So if you're an SEO person and you disagree with anything we said, we want to hear from you.
Yeah,
that's why we're wrong.
Yeah.
And we'll get into it. It'll be great. And we're happy to be wrong. That's fine. So thank you for listening to the Digital Marketing Podcast. As ever, all of those things will be on the pages of the website. So targetinternet.com/podcast. You'll find every link to help you. We want to hear from you as ever. So get in contact with your feedback. How's your SEO going? What have your struggles been as well? If you've got a problem that you can't work out, we like to hear about those because we might be able to find some insights. So thank you for listening to the Digital Marketing Podcast.
Please subscribe for more videos like this and visit targetinternet.com for more free digital marketing resources.